I genuinely think this might be one of the best prismatic builds for the Warlock. With this, you're going to have substantial ad clear alongside being able to do a ton of single target damage and the ability to pretty much be unkillable. You're also going to be able to use your Transcendence pretty much anytime you would like to, and all of it is going to synergize together extremely well. This is some of the most fun I have had on Transcendence Warlock so far, and it's only going to get better once we can get access to our class items. There's a lot going into this build, so be sure to stick around to learn everything, and if you all enjoy, consider subscribing and dropping a like. We are so close to 50,000 subscribers, and every single bit of support from you all is truly appreciated. All right, jump right into it. Let's first start off taking a look at our subclass and then talk about how everything is going to build upon this. First off, for our aspects, we're going to be running Hellion. So activate your class ability to summon a solar mortar that lobs flaming projectiles at distant targets. Targets damaged by the mortar are scorched. Hellion is honestly a very strong aspect. You're going to be able to have this up permanently by your side, and it just provides extra damage. On top of that, it will also scorch enemies, so if it applies enough scorch stacks, it will also cause ignite, which can do massive damage. So not only can this just help you out with ad clear shooting enemies from time to time, but even if you're fighting a boss, it can constantly apply that scorch to ignite enemies at a certain point. And then our next aspect is going to be Feed the Void. So defeat a target with any ability to activate Devour. Your Devour effects are improved, restoring additional health and grenade energy. Feed the Void is for sure one of the strongest aspects on the Prismatic subclass. Any ability kill you get, and even kills with your Hellion, can proc this. You're going to heal to max every single time you get a kill, and you're constantly refilling your grenade energy, and your grenade is going to play a massive part into this build. And speaking of your grenade, you're going to want to run Vortex Grenade because this will synergize with some of our fragments down below, and to spawn your Hellion a lot more often, you're going to want to run Phoenix style because this has the lowest cooldown of all the class abilities, and that means you can reproc it and have this up pretty much 24/7. And then for the rest of our abilities, we're going to be running Arcane Needle, which I will talk more about later, and we're going to be running Nova Bomb because with the buff and all the synergies this is going to have with the build, it actually is a very good single target damage super now. It can outperform Needle Storm if you do get everything correct with this build, and I never thought I'd see the day where Nova Bomb is actually in the meta. Now for our fragments to round the rest of the build out, we're going to be running Facet of Grace. So defeating targets with kinetic weapons grants you bonus Transcendence energy. Defeating targets with your super grants you and nearby allies bonus Transcendence energy. This is great to have because as you've seen in the gameplay so far, you're going to be running a kinetic weapon at all times. This just means you're going to be able to pop your Transcendence a lot more often, and your Transcendence for this build is very strong because you will get a Vortex and Stasis Grenade, which will also heavily play into our fragments down the line. Being able to spam your Transcendence grenades alongside your normal Vortex grenades is what makes this build very good, and it's something you want to have up as much as possible. Now our next fragment is just going to be Facet of Protection. So while surrounded by combatants, you are more resistance to incoming damage, while Transcendence, this effect is increased. This was just pretty self-explanatory. You're going to get damage reduction while you're Transcendent. You're also going to get even more damage reduction, so you can kind of treat Transcendence like a mini super in a way because you're just having even more damage reduction. Next up is going to be Facet of Hope. So while you have an elemental buff, your class ability regenerates more quickly. Facet of Hope is extremely nice because you're always going to have Devour up on your character at all times. Since Devour is an elemental buff, this just means you're constantly getting more class ability energy just for having Devour up. And since Devour can refill your grenade very fast, it essentially is just giving you double ability regeneration, which is very strong. The more class ability that you have means the more Hellions you can spawn for more damage, and you're going to want to spam your class ability all the time. Now for your final two fragments, they're going to play into each other, and I'm going to start off with Facet of Dominance. So your Void Grenades weaken targets and your Arc Grenades jolt targets. This is the reason we're running Vortex Grenade, so we can apply Weaken whenever we throw our grenade on an enemy. Since you have Devour, you're going to be able to get your grenade back extremely quick, so you're always going to be able to apply Weaken wherever you need it. And yes, this also does work with your Transcendence Grenade. And then for the final fragment to play into that is Facet of Courage. So your Arc, Solar, and Void abilities deal increased damage to targets afflicted with darkness debuffs. So this is one of the reasons we're going to be running Arcane Needle. We can apply Unravel to a bunch of targets, and then every single one of our light abilities, aka our Hellion, our Grenade, and even our Super, is going to do more damage. What's really cool about this is that this will also work with your Transcendence Grenade since you apply a slowing stasis field, and since that Transcendence Grenade is also void, not only are you applying the Weaken from Facet of Dominance, but you're also going to be getting the increased damage from Facet of Courage. So you can throw your Transcendence Grenade on a boss, throw your Nova Bomb, and you're going to be doing a ton of damage. And if your Transcendence isn't up, you still have the ability to do that much damage. Just make sure you're throwing your Vortex Grenade and an Arcane Needle on whatever boss you're fighting, and you're still going to be getting the same amount of damage as the Transcendence Grenade would. But that's pretty much it for the subclass. Our exotics and our artifacts also going to be playing a heavy role into this, Starting off with our exotics, we're going to be taking Necrotic Grip, so Grasp of the Devourer, damaging a target with melee poisons them, dealing increased damage over time, defeating a poison target spreads the condition. This is the other reason we're going to be running Arcane Needle, because Arcane Needle is a longer range melee, it applies Unravel, and since this is also going to apply a damage over time with this poison, it can proc that Unravel, and you're going to be able to spread this Unravel and poison literally everywhere on the battlefield. One melee, given enough time, can absolutely kill an entire room of enemies, and it also is just very good for doing some additional boss damage because it is just constantly proccing this damage over time 24/7. And then the weapons of choice to pair with this build is going to be things like Necrochasm, Osteosugar, or Thorn, because all of those will synergize with Necrotic Grip, and every single time you get kills, it will also spread the poison from a long range away. Things like Necrochasm is a little different. The explosion from the Cursed Oral perk will actually spread the poison, and that helps out with the Ad Clear, causing an absurd chain reaction. And pretty much just getting one single kill with this weapon will just kill an entire room, and if it doesn't, they will slowly burn to death, which then will go on to kill more enemies if there are any even more around. Now, the final cool thing about this is that we're obviously also playing heavy into super damage. Ad Clear is going to be very strong just with these two things alone, but once we finally get our exotic class item, we're going to be able to pair Necrotic Grip with Star Eater's Scales. If you don't know the way Star Eater's Scales work, every single time you pick an orb up while your super is full, you're going to make your super do more damage when you cast it. So with all the damage increases that we're given to our super, this is just going to stack on top of all that, while also still giving you the Ad Clear benefits of Necrotic Grip and the synergy that it can pair with its exotic weapons. All of that synergized together is just going to be ridiculously strong, and I cannot wait to get my hands on that specific class item. And now for the artifact, this is also going to be played heavily into the build. You have things like Expanding Abyss, so your Void Source still increase damage to weakened targets. This is great because since your grenades can weaken enemies, once again, this is going to make your Void super do a lot more damage. With things like Fast of Courage, it's also increased in damage. And even when you throw things like your Transcendence Grenade or even your normal grenade, since these both apply weakened, your grenade can also just deal more damage. So pretty much, again, any Void Source that you're doing, you're going to do more damage. You can take things like Ed's Transit, things like Doom Petitioner, even things like Null Composure. You're just doing a lot more damage with this perk. It is very, very good. Now, your next one is going to be Transference. So you get more grenade and melee damage while in Transcendence, but when you get Weapon Final Blows while Transcendence is active, it will actually refill some of that Transcendence energy. Around 20 kills will actually refill half of your Transcendence energy for both light and dark. And this is very, very good because, again, you want to spam your Transcendence as much as possible because your Transcendence Grenade is basically just a buffed version of your normal grenade, and you're getting all the other benefits that Transcendence provides. Things like Void Hegemony, I think I pronounced that correctly, is going to make it so you get a Void Overshield whenever you kill a weakened target. Once again, your grenades are going to kill enemies all the time, so you're going to have Void Overshields for survivability. And then things like Radiant Orbs is also nice. Whenever you pick an orb up, you're going to get Radiant for more damage. And on top of that, when we do have Star Eaters, not only are you going to be getting that increased super damage, again, you will now also proc Radiant for your weapons to do even more boss damage with those. And then the final thing is Elemental Siphon. So rapid kinetic weapon final blows will make a elemental pickup that matches your super. That just means now all the weapons I was talking about, Necrochasm, Thorn, Osteosugar, will now be able to make Void Breaches because we are going to be running Nova Bomb. And those Void Breaches that you do pick up will actually grant you class ability energy, which again means you can spam Hellions even more. Everything synergizes back together with this build and is just so strong. And now for stats with this build, 100 Resilience is for sure the way to go. You're going to be getting 30% damage reduction, 100 Discipline, so you can spam your grenade a lot more often. Obviously, your grenade is a very focal point of this build, so you want to spam it as much as possible. And then your recovery and your strength are honestly both very important, so I would try to get them up as much as you can. As you see, I have 60 recovery and 60 strength. Again, you want recovery to spam Hellion all the time, and you want strength so you can spam your Arcane Needle for things like Fast of Courage and to spread Necrotic Grip poison everywhere. And jumping into our armor mods, I'm going to take a Kinetic Siphon, so when I get rapid kinetic weapon final blows, I can make an orb. All the weapons I talked about earlier not only spreading poison, but now they're making orbs, which is very, very nice. Next up is Ashes to Assets, so whenever I get grenade kills, I get bonus super energy. Since you can spam your grenade all the time, this is going to be procced quite a lot, and you want to spam your super as much as possible with this build because it's going to be getting a ton of damage bonuses. Next up is Dynamo, so whenever I use my class ability near enemies, I will also get some extra super energy. Since you want to spam this all the time as well for Hellion, this just means once again more super energy so you can have a ton of damage. Next up for our arms, the Kinetic Loader is a must for me. I just like to have this so I can reload all the weapons that pair with Necrotic Grip. And then I like to take a Momentum Transfer and a Bolstering Detonation, so whenever I deal damage with my grenade, I will get bonus class ability energy and bonus melee energy. Obviously, all your abilities are very strong in this build, and since you can spam your grenade the most, this is just nice to have so you can bump those other two abilities up as well. For your chest piece, always go with resistant mods and just be sure to swap these out for whatever content you're going into. And then for your boots, I like to take triple kinetic weapon surge to buff my Necrotic Grip focus weapons. If you're going into any other boss scenario, be sure to swap on things like Void Weapon Surge, so your heavy weapons could do more damage, especially with those Void debuff targets. But just for your general play, 3 Kinetic Weapon Surges is very nice to have just for your extra ad clear. And the reason I don't take things like Recuperation is because you already have Devour up all the time, which will heal you every time you get a kill anyway. And then finally for my class item, I do like to take a Bomber since I can spend my class ability a lot. This will grant me some extra grenade energy, and then also powerful attraction, so when I use my class ability, I will pick orbs up that are around me. This can reproc my Kinetic Weapon Surges, and on top of that, it can also grab orbs for Star Eaters once that class item eventually comes out. And then also a time dilation, so my decay and armor charge stacks last a little bit longer, so my Kinetic Weapon Surges just last longer. And since I can pick orbs up all the time, you're pretty much going to have an infinite amount of increased damage with whatever weapon that you are running. And then for the most important part of the build, this is the Transmog I am running. Obviously, I went for a very prismatic theme color right here. I tried to go for a very wiry, run-down theme look. I did take advantage of the ornament on the Crowded Grip that makes them look like Siva. And as you see, I have a bunch of glowing lights and a bunch of just kind of wires all over the place with this. This drip will change once I do get the new class item with the Crowded Grip and Star Eaters. But for now, if you want to make your Warlock look like this, definitely be sure to copy it down. But all right, that is going to do it for this build. Let me know what y'all think about it in the comments below. Not only does it have extremely strong ad clear, it also has extremely strong super energy, and just everything synergizes together so well. Like I said in the beginning, I honestly believe that this is one of the best all-around Prismatic Warlock builds. You don't really have to think about it too much. Everything just works for you in the background, and it can absolutely cover any content in the game that you want it to cover. Anyways, though, that's going to do it all for me. I wish you all the best of luck in putting this build together for yourself. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Peace.